Thanks for your time today, and thanks for inviting me as well, VST team, for this Cloud Summit and sharing sharing information targeted towards CSPs, the customer service providers, in terms of how VMware could help them in modernizing their existing communications network with a portfolio of products that we call as a VMware Telco Cloud Platform. So let's begin. So if you see in the telcos or the CSPs, the communication service providers, what is happening now is the 5G is coming. 5G is already launched in many countries. Philippines, the 5G services have started. So if you see the for the business, what actually is happening is the application, so the new services makes money. It is pretty apparent. But at the same time, the applications drive the infrastructure needs. It is never the other way around. So application kind of dictates what kind of infrastructure they want, and that is a critical component. With the advent of the 5G, obviously what has happened is the physical boundaries has limited because 5G offers a low latency services with a high throughput. So it actually enables CSPs to offer different types of services. For example, 5G e-health, 5G manufacturing, public safety, learning, retail, esports. And these are just few, but I think the application that would evolve, the new services that would evolve using the 5G technology would be immense. At the same time, what is happening is with the mobility, as well as the user experience becoming very critical, these applications, these new services has to run on any cloud at any location. For example, if you're running some kind of a gaming application, probably you want to run that at the provider edge. If you want to run some kind of a smart manufacturing, or for example, e-health services or solutions for emergency, you probably want to be at the enterprise edge, near to the customer location. So each of these domains per se, be it from the core to the provider edge, to the RAN, to the enterprise edge, and for that matter, to the public cloud, these domains are all relevant depending upon where the customer is, where the user is, and what kind of applications they want to access. At the same token, they would like to have a best quality of experience that they would like to achieve when they're accessing the services. So delivering any application, or for that matter, delivering any kind of new services on any type of cloud with the optimal QoE, the quality of experience, is absolutely mandatory. So ideally, CSPs do understand this, and the communication service providers wants to build these new services at a web speed, at the same time with a greater agility, faster time to market, and uh, not just that, but I think one important part is about having a very robust ecosystem to support this whole gamut of services they would like to launch. So at the same time, what they want to do is, once it's not just about launching a new service, it's all about running the service and then bringing it to a scale and managing the day to lifespan of that service. Because as the communication service provider, the day two, which is basically the operations of running that services, is extremely critical. And it is important to have the full control of that day two operations. Now, to understand this whole gamut of new services and new applications, and you going into this era, I think there are two approach. If you really ask me, in a very simplistic manner, what approach CSPs can take. One approach could be a traditional approach. You go in a very siloed build vertical stack. For example, if you want just example of 5G manufacturing related solution or application, you just buy the entire stack from one vendor, right from the hardware to virtualization or containerization, their application, their O&M, the operations and management system, and everything. And then you can launch it. Probably that will work. Obviously, it can work. But the problem that will happen is, as you move to the different types of services, now 5G learning, you will again get a vertical stack from some other vendor. Retail could be from other vendor. What eventually happens is you end up into having multiple silos of these vertical stacks. And obviously, it might work for a certain time, but when you try to scale these things to at a massive scale, obviously it will become a big challenge. Moreover, you would of course need a lot of people to have the skill set of managing these different vertical silos. You have to train them, they have to manage them, manage this network. So it becomes in a way a nightmare. So the virtualization in the telco world started with the NFV journey, which started in 2013, 2014 onwards. And now it is picking up pace because now with the 5G coming in, I think the CSPs have realized the networks are getting more distributed. At the same time, they want to have multiple vendors, multiple types of services that they need to launch. And obviously, I think one thinking that has emerged in last 4 or 5 years, and now it is really keeping attraction is while I'm doing the network modernization journey, I would like to have the platform as a pivot or the central nervous system of this network modernization journey. And why is that? And why is that keeping traction? The reason for that is the CSPs as they are right now, they are feeling these challenges. They are actually have to overcome these challenges. Number one, new business model. So it is not just about launching a service. It is all about eventually the business model, how you want to monetize that service, right? So CSPs as such, they want to move from a communication service provider, they want to become a digital service provider. So they want to move up in the value chain. They don't just want to become a connectivity provider. They want to basically go up into the ladder and provide a more, I think, more, I would say, value added services. For that, they can get better margins as well as they could monetize better. So I think that's one challenge they're looking into it. Definitely, the second, which I talked earlier, was about breaking through the vertical silos. So reliance on that siloed architecture could do good for the CSPs for a while, but obviously it is not a robust solution when they are talking about modernizing the entire network and having that cutting edge differentiation compared to the competition. So that is definitely another challenge that CSPs are looking into it. The lack of agility and the lack of flexibility, that's a big problem because what has happened so far obviously is we want to now in this era of 5G, when the new services are getting launched, new applications are getting launched, they are getting launched at the web scale, web speed. So the CSP needs the flexibility of a platform to support both legacy as well as the new technologies. So for example here, obviously we have been talking about the virtualization, and obviously the containerization has picked its pace very rapidly. So Kubernetes is definitely a way to go in the future. But at the same time, you can't leave your virtual machine based network functions, which are called VNFs, just sitting there without taking care of them. So you have to have a platform which kind of manages your VNF as well as your CNF, your virtualized network function as well as your containerized network function. And the operational complexities. I think we have to agree as the CSPs kind of evolve into this different generation from 1G to 2G, 2G to 3G, 3 to 4, 4 to 5G. Obviously, the complexity has blown tremendously. It is definitely a complex network to manage. So CSPs definitely want to have a simplified operations along with the provisioning and deployment of services. So these are few key challenges that CSPs are facing. And what is VMware strategy and how VMware could help? So VMware, if you look at from the 5G's VMware's perspective, what we see is we kind of help operators in three ways. The number one, which is the main topic here, which is the modernizing the CSP network. As you are aware, I think we also saw just earlier one of the session we talked about a private cloud solution based on the VMware solution. So VMware is a dominant player in terms of virtualization. I think we have a huge market share there. At the same token, software defined networks are becoming a pretty dominant part of the telcos environment. At the same token, they want to do the cloud native as well. So VMware is poised here in terms of being a virtualization and obviously a containerization leader. What we can offer here is a path to modernize the CSP's network to help them to become a digital service provider. The second aspect of our strategy is helping CSPs to move to the next generation. So if you are already on the 4G system, then we could help you to uh, bring it to the 5G system and build the system with a platform-based approach, which would help you to not just cater to the 5G, but it would help you to cater to the next generation that is coming. At the same time, multi-cloud really is an important aspect. You would have seen some announcements recently that a lot of operators now are utilizing the public cloud as well for their network functions deployment. Be there OSS, BSS. Some have already announced that they want to move their core networks to the public cloud, and I think the RAN could be another one which could be going there. So I think those definitely need a lot of automation capabilities, and VMware could help in that area as well with our multi-cloud strategy. Monetization. I think this has become a buzzword now. It's in the CSP world, because so far B2C, which is business to consumer, was definitely a way to go in terms of monetizing your network. But now, as the 5G is coming, 5G has come. I think there are a lot of services that would come, and then CSPs need to monetize them. Services such as SD-WAN, SASE, private connectivity solutions like private 5G, private LTE, those solutions could help to monetize the network. So in a nutshell, VMS strategy is to help the operators, to help the CSPs, communication service providers, to become digital service provider by helping them to modernize their network, to help them to move to the next generation of technology, and help them to monetize the network investments that they have done. So let's just double click into a bit more into how this infrastructure look like as of now. If you look at any typical communication service provider, there are disparate networks infrastructure across IT, across the core network, across their edge and RAN network. And rightly so, because that's how this whole things have started. So in the IT network, you will see, for example, OSS BSS stack, which kind of comes from a particular vendor, and it kind of comes with the whole from the application services down to the even the hardware. Same goes with the core network, where you probably have, let's say, 10 to 20 sites, and you're running different types of vertical stack from different vendors. So I have seen operators running at least 3 different vertical stack from 3 different vendors running. For example, one is running EPC, one is running IMS, one is running VAS, the value added services. So obviously what this creates is a huge silo, and then managing the silo itself kind of obviously increases the cost as well as the complexity in the sense, now you need those skill set, the people with the skill set to manage that particular stack, and cross pollinating them in terms of educating them about the different technology. Of course it would take time, it would take effort, and this kind of creates a lot of silos in the network. Same goes with the RAN or the edge network. In the RAN network, what we have seen so far is probably many operators kind of split their network, give that network to, let's say, half to one vendor or one third to other, and then the rest two third to somebody else. So basically, they again in that split, even though there are 2-3 vendors, they again have their own vertical stack. So I think I hope I made my point clear. Having those vertical siloed stack really creates a lot of complexity, because you have to have the particular dedicated hardware from those guys. At the same time, you have a different life cycle to manage for this different software component, a different O&M interface that you need to learn. So your operational consistency isn't there, neither the infrastructure consistency. So that creates a problem. Now, what is the VMS idea in terms of solving this problem? So what we do is actually we have the VMware STDC stack, which is the software-defined data center stack, which is now again optimized. And I'll go a bit deeper in terms of how that stack actually looks like. We optimize that stack to fit in for all the different types of applications that they needed. For example, in the IT side of the world, of course, we have our SDDC. In the telco, we have our portfolio called as a telco cloud infrastructure. And on top of it, we have a telco cloud automation. So, and then on the edge side or the RAN side, we have telco cloud platform for RAN. So it's essentially, it's a same SDDC stack running, which is customized for the particular application set, so that you can have a common substrate of, let's say, compute, storage, networking, management, and BIM across this multiple domain. So eventually what it actually helps you to create is a consistent infrastructure, right all the way from your core network to your edge network to RAN to the public cloud. So in fact, you can deploy this across any of this network, and your application can seamlessly kind of migrate from one side to other. And then that kind of creates a very consistent infrastructure, a manageable infrastructure for you. At the same token, as the infrastructure is now common across this different domain, it helps you to kind of build a consistent operation. So you are going to use the same tool set. For example, we realize operations. So we realize login site and so and so forth. They kind of help you to then manage this infrastructure layer consistently across multiple domains. And on top of it, as I talked earlier, the automation and orchestration has become extremely important with the advent of 5G, because the very nature of the 5G is kind of asking, is basic, because of the very nature of 5G, the networks are becoming quite distributed than centralized, which was the case in the past. But because of that distributed nature, the intelligence now has to move to the edge. And now we are talking about not just few tens of sites, but we are talking about few thousand in cases, few hundred to few thousand kind of sites. So when you want to deploy that kind of massive scale environment, what you definitely need is a very good tool which could help you in terms of not just about planning, but in terms of your deployment and eventually in terms of the operation. So that consistent orchestration layer is extremely important. So in a nutshell, having that consistent infrastructure and consistent operation and consistent orchestration across IT core network, your RAN and the public cloud, it kind of helps you to reduce your network complexity as well as the cost. So let's again double click a bit into why I'm saying the network operation cost kind of goes up, right? When if you really don't think about platform as your central nervous system as a pivot to your network transformation strategy. So on the x-axis you see a timeline, on the y-axis you see the complexity. So what happened now is, as the cloud gains the importance in the service delivery, there are massive multi-layer innovations starting from the infrastructure to the application up to the service layer, right? So what one thing which is common, as I said, in the 5G, the distributed nature of the network. So in the past, we are talking about few central locations, central offices or data centers, probably 10, 20. Now, the very nature of this 5G is asking the data centers or the edge locations to go from hundreds to probably thousands. So the complexity of managing this thousands of different separate sites, which could be running different types of application, definitely is one complexity to look at. On top of it, now at these all distributed locations, all these edge locations, if you think about it, there are applications that will be running. What kind of applications will be running on this edge kind of servers? Obviously, there for the network perspective, there could be VNFs, which are virtualized VM based. There could be CNF, which is containerized, Kubernetes, basically container based. And then the enterprise application. For example, you could have a CDN kind of a thing, or something which is like a video gaming. And all this are into a different format. They are multi-format, multi-vendor network functions. So obviously that again adds up another layer of complexity. And to top up with that, when you're talking about services, the services are the crux, right? I mean, today we have learned in the day one summit, obviously, what are the important considerations of the cloud journey? I think eventually what it boils down to, everything is as a service is definitely picking up pace. And not just that, what every customer wants, as we probably would, we want a personalized experience. So as the B2B enterprises as well, they want a particular network slice with a particular SLA. They want to have some advanced services related to AR, VR, and so on and so forth. So now you are talking about how to create those SLAs, how to create that network slice, which kind of fulfills the requirement of the customer. So you see, as the network evolves, now we are getting into 5G. As it goes into 6G, obviously that network operation cost is going to go multifold. And that's where the value of telco cloud comes into it. So the big question to ask is it a right way to just continue to build a network in a siloed manner? Or is there something we can do in terms of building for example, a telco cloud for networks and how it could potentially help us or potentially help CSP. So actually, if you really map the previous slide to this slide now, and if I have to consider this, how this whole things are kind of working together, you look into the public cloud area or the network, the bottom layer, which is the infrastructure layer. Now, as I mentioned, as we move from a move from the just about centralized architecture to the distributed architecture, you probably want to have your workload sitting on the core. You want to run them probably on the edge, or you potentially want to run them into the public cloud. So obviously, what is needed here is a consistent and a common platform approach. With VMware Telco Cloud Platform, as I mentioned earlier, we could give you that consistent infrastructure layer irrespective of where that domain could be. And that kind of solves a big problem of managing multiple kind of infrastructure. At the same token, managing or developing the different skill set to manage this infrastructure as well. So it kind of simplifies that complexity part. The second part, which I think is very relevant now in the service providers, is in terms of how do I manage the existence of my legacy application. For example, in the past, you have physical. Now, of course, many of the operators have already started deploying their VNFs. I know a few operators who have already deployed around 1,000 VNFs into their network, and they still think that that's just a beginning because the networks are such a massive networks. So obviously, the VNFs are going to stay there, the virtual network function. At the same time, the containerization is key to success as well, because of course is the ability of the CI/CD as well as in terms of the upgrade and updates, which kind of simplifies a lot of pain points for this for the communication service provider. So operator wants a platform which could support both VNFs and CNF, and that's exactly what Telco Cloud Platform can provide to the operators. It provides a platform which allows the CNF and VNF to sit side by side, and when the operator is ready to move completely into a cloud native era, then we can also help them in terms of supporting that. And the third one, as I mentioned, about the network slicing, advanced services, and so on and so forth. The Telco Cloud Platform actually helps you to accelerate this advanced innovation. Thanks to the Telco Cloud automation as well as the Telco Cloud operations. So these two tools, I would say, the products are extremely important for a CSP when they embark into their network modernization journey. And I will explain a bit in terms of what exactly our portfolio looks like. But I think just to clear this point, the value of Telco Cloud comes here. So if you kind of build all these networks in a very siloed way, it will work for a certain time, but obviously the complexity cannot come down. It will just ramp up. But at the same time, if you pivot your network modernization journey to the point where platform is the kind of a central nervous system of your network, and you kind of then decide that this is my platform and this is my platform looks like with these are the specifications, and any application vendor, if they want to run that application on my platform, they have to comply with my platform requirements. Then actually you kind of reduce that complexity in a tremendous way. And that's where the value of the Telco Cloud Platform kind of comes into the picture, and it helps you tremendously. Just to move on now to what is VMware's cloud vision and strategy. So if you look at the CSPs, the communication service provider, there are main three, I think, centers in the telco. One is, of course, the IT, supporting the IT function, supporting the innovations within the company. IT was a cost center in the past days, but now it is obviously becoming a partner in the business center. It is kind of enabling a lot of service providers to become the digital service provider by launching differentiated services, be it B2B, potentially from the B2C perspective. At the same token, if you look deep down into the network area of a telco, what is happening there? In the network side of the telcos are building out their core network. And many have realized that probably building a horizontal platform with multiple vendors supported on that platform is the right way. At the same token, I think everybody's talking about the edge. Extending to edge kind of offers a tremendous possibilities for the CSPs. So there is a new services, plethora of new services that are coming, be it the mobile edge computing, be it the private connectivity, or and so on and so forth. So that is another area that CSPs are looking into. So the core, the edge, then obviously the main thing, the new upcoming thing in the core, in the CSPs, the communication service providers, is the RAN. And in the RAN, there are two things happening. One thing is obviously the virtual RAN, which is picking up its speed, and the same time the open RAN, which is actually, I would say, is happening pretty quickly in the industry. So these two areas are again are based on the similar principles that we have seen in the earlier. The idea here is again breaking the silos of a vertical stack of a RAN network and breaking that into a small, manageable, tangible pieces, and then make the interfaces open. So that then so what would happen is that would enable to run the RAN workload on this consistent platform, and then obviously having the open front hall, which could enable you to have the open ecosystem of partners that could come into this RAN business as well. So that is another area which is kind of gathering a lot of steam. And then the enabling the private connectivity. Private connectivity is again a big topic. It's a huge traction that many operators are seeing, as well as there are many market opportunities to capture into. So we have kind of based our vision and the strategy based on what CSPs are actually doing in the network. So just to map this out, for all these four broad initiatives, we have this, I would say, at broad level, three products, or the three solution. And in a nutshell, the whole umbrella of the product is called as the telco cloud portfolio. So first, the telco cloud infrastructure. So this is the infrastructure layer, which includes, of course, compute, storage, networking. But at the same time, it also includes your, if you're talking about the Vim-based architecture, then it includes your vCloud Director or a VMware integrated OpenStack Vim-based layer. If you're talking about Kubernetes, then it talks about the TKG, which is Tanzu Kubernetes Grid. So the infrastructure, telco cloud infrastructure, gives you that ability to run this infrastructure across multiple domains. Now, on top of it comes the telco cloud automation. So the automation here is a very important piece, as I said, because of the distributed nature of the network that is coming along. So what the capability of the telco cloud automation here is, the automation can the telco cloud automation not only can bring your infrastructure, the telco cloud infrastructure, in a zero touch provision manner, but at the same token, it also acts as a MANO, which is an orchestration function to deploy your CNF as well as the VNF, and it can help you to monitor your manage the data parts of your infrastructure as well. So that the telco cloud automation becomes an important ingredient in the whole telco cloud portfolio. And the last but not least, obviously, nothing is complete until you have a very good solution for the day two. And that is where the telco cloud operation comes into picture, which gives you all the root cause analysis based remediations, root cause analysis as well as the remediations based on obviously the models that we have kind of developed. So that kind of gives you that consistent layer of operations across. And you're also familiar with the tool set, for example, the vRealize operations and so on and so forth. So in a nutshell, we create this unified, developer-friendly, multi-cloud telco, I would say telco cloud edge architecture, which enables the CSPs to innovate faster. And this is how the telco cloud, I would say, platform portfolio looks like. So now let's look. Now, so far we have looked about why we should do this in terms of how the network is kind of getting evolved, where the monetization opportunities are, how VMware could help in terms of bringing that consistent infra, consistent operation layer, as well as the automation orchestration layer. But let's look into the journey. How does it look like? Now, the infrastructure evolution has to be a sustainable, right? So at any modernization journey, I think the number one thing or the number one aspect that we need to look into is it should not be too disruptive to disrupt the existing business. So how we can support the agility required for this 5G network with wherever the customer is. So, for example, the biggest question is to start is in the network form transformation is uh, where do we start? And the answer is we start from where you are. For example, many of our customers right now have deployed OpenStack based or a VMware vCloud Director based Vim solution, which in the past was called as a vCloud NFV. Essentially, in a nutshell, it was the obviously vSphere with the vSAN and NSX, and running with a Vim layer of vCloud Director and the or the VIO. So many operators have deployed their VNFs on top of it. Now, if they want an automation layer on top of it, they can deploy a telco cloud automation, which again helps to simplify the day one planning as well as the day two operations for the network. But as they want to evolve from a VM-based architecture to Kubernetes architecture, they in fact can build a VMware Tanzu portfolio and build a side-by-side stack where they can run Kubernetes workloads as well as the VM-based workloads as well in the side by side, and that kind of helps them to address that question: what do I do with my legacy network, and how do I at the same token, how do I basically leverage on the latest and the greatest technology and get into it? And this is the answer. So with that VMware telco cloud infrastructure with side-by-side approach, you can run your CNFs as well as the VNF on the VMware stack. And obviously, as you move into the future, and again, getting into cloud native is again a different ball game. It is not just about the technology piece. There's a lot of things which needs to be catered in terms of DevOps model, where in terms of CI/CD pipeline, how do you integrate, how do you basically form the team, the organization structure, and so on and so forth. So when the CSPs are cloud ready and they are true and the applications are completely cloud native and they're ready to get into that journey, we can in fact then run the Tanzu, the CNF and the VNFs absolutely on the vSphere vSAN cluster, with the supervisor cluster being there, and it could potentially run as a Vimbless as well. Again, the TCA being the automation and orchestration layer, which adds its value in terms of simplifying your day one and helping you into your day two operations. So in this slide, now let's look into, in the previous slide, we talked about the journey, how we can go about from point A to point B, and then eventually to the nirvana stage of cloud native. But now let's look into how this portfolio actually look like from the overall network aspects of a telco. So if you start from the bottom half, top half of the slide, we talk about the right hand side, which is the OSS BSS. Obviously, there's a need of cloudification that is happening there, right? Many of the operators are thinking that they would like to run their OSS or potentially BSS application as well from the cloud. So obviously, they, that poses a challenge. Can you lift and shift that application? And I think you probably have heard this. I think lift and shift is the easiest approach when it comes to the cloud adoption. And there comes the solution from the VMware, which is called the VMware VMC for the AWS solution, which is the VMware Cloud on AWS. And at the same time, there is a similar solution on AWS, which is the Azure solution. So you can potentially run basically these two offerings are running the VMware stack in the public cloud. And then this will enable operators to move their applications, which are VM based, right from their on-premise to the data center, to the public cloud, either into VMC or AVS. So that is one area where we can definitely help. And I think we have, as you know, that we have these offerings where we are running the VMware SDDC stack across the hyperscalers, be it in obviously Azure, Amazon, GCP, Alibaba, and so on and so forth. So I think those are few are already launched, few are in progress. So I think that area is definitely where we could help. At the same time, when it comes to the mobile network of things, where this when we are running your EMSs, where you're running your EPC, IMS, and so on and so forth. If you look at it, we have that core optimized SDDC with TKG for supporting your containerization, with NSX Calico as a CNIs, just to support your network interfaces. Then Photon OS for the telco core, and here you can run your both VNFs as well as CNF, and you can create your own network slice as well. If you move now from the core side of things, and if you move to the, I would say, the RAN, in the RAN side of things, or the edge side of things, again, we have same SDDC stack, but it is RAN optimized, edge optimized, and you can then deploy your TKG, and then you can deploy your CNFs across it. So, in nutshell, this is how it looks like when you actually see that consistent infrastructure and consistent operation across the different domains in a telco. So I think I hope I made this point clear in terms of how we kind of help telcos to get into this unified telco proposition, and how eventually it would basically help them to reduce the operational complexity, as well as help them to manage their cost and innovate faster. Now, another aspect which is very important in this whole network transformation is the whole ecosystem itself. And when it comes to network function, when you obviously, as they are regulated they run in a regulated environment, in the sense that obviously every country has their regulatory body, which kind of keeps a watch on the mobile operators in terms of the SLAs that they have to meet. Obviously, there are some sensitivities involved in terms of these VNFs or CNFs. Will they work on this platform? So we kind of took a very holistic approach in terms of addressing that concern a long time ago, and we have launched a program called VMware Telco, Ready for Telco Cloud. So under this program, we have certified a lot of over 200 plus, I would say, workloads, which I think which kind of covers from all the tier ones vendors to the different vendors as well, which are in the industry. And what we have done with all these important vendors is we have set up the system verification lab with these NEPs, which is a network equipment provider. So what we do here is we kind of help them to onboard their network functions onto the VMware platform, run the extensive tests like performance, scale, resiliency, and help them to validate that those applications, those CNFs or VNFs are running perfectly fine on our platform. But this is what we are doing with the partners. So obviously, the question that a lot of CSPs have asked us is, that is something happening remotely, and I have pretty much no control. I still want some control on it, and how do I do it? And that's where we kind of come up with this idea of obviously path to production operator model, where you could deploy this environment now in the CSP environment. We can do then pre-production trials and get into a production ready. So we could, with our PSO services, could help you to set up this environment where you could onboard the CNFs in the CSP environment. Then you can do the local testing to your specific architecture, because whatever we have validated here, maybe you have a slightly different architecture. That is still fine. We can help you in that user acceptance testing and create that localized proof point. At the same time, once you're happy with that, then you go into you want to go into pre-production trial. We can help them in terms of doing the pre-production launch, then a beta and trials, customize them, integrate, and so on and so forth, to help you in that staging and data collection area. And then obviously, when you're ready to launch this, we can help you in terms of launching that service. And one another thing that comes with a lot of operators is, I still want that some kind of a sandbox environment, would like to test, try out, and so on and so forth. And there we could potentially develop a sandbox environment with the partners. And then we can do this localized testing, software revisions, upgrade updates, which would enable you to do the faster go-to-market for your services. So that is our CNF factory in a way. So this kind of helps you to address the biggest concern that all the CSPs has is, how would we make sure that all these different vendors application would work on the VMware platform? The answer to that is this path to production model, which we have, by the way, implemented with multiple operators across the region, be it in Asia or across the world as well. And this another one which I would like to talk a bit about is the partner, right? So if you go to this VMware marketplace and you search for telco, there's a URL given here at the bottom, the marketplace.cloud.vmware.com. And if you search for telco, it will pop up all the workloads that are currently certified on the to run on the VMware Telco cloud platform. And this number kind of keeps growing. I think 200 probably is an old number now, because probably I would say in every week it keeps changing. And you can see all the big names here: Nokia, Mavenir, Ericsson, Samsung, Altiostar, Huawei, and so on and so forth. So all different types of network function, different VNFs, different CNFs, they're all certified. So what it actually enables you is to give you that true multi-vendor enabled platform, which kind of then helps you to take full control of innovation that you would like to bring in. With that, I think one last slide I have where I would like to just give you the idea that this platform has been a proven platform running in 120 plus telcos globally. And I think this has kind of, I would say that proven that this solution from VMware is working. It works at scale, and this is the right way to go when you are thinking about your modernization approach. So I would say summarize this just in a problem of a couple of minutes is that uh, the modernization journeys are, or any network transformation is going to be a complex transformation. What is important here is to find a approach which kind of suits you. And obviously technology is one part of it. The skill set, the people process is part of it. Those are also extremely important part of it. VMware has done this extensively with multiple telcos across the globe. We can bring you that learnings with our partners, and definitely that would enable to get you started on the right step forward in terms of your network transformation journey. I think there are tremendous opportunities. There are tremendous potential that CSPs has in front of them to capture it and to become a truly digital service provider. And VMware is ready to actually VMware Telco Cloud Platform is ready to help in the CSP journeys in terms of modernizing their networks. With that, if you have any further questions, you can probably ask them, or you can also reach out to me. I think if you have any further inquiries related to the VMware platform.